Long ago, in the land of ancient China, two powerful kingdoms stood side by side, the state of Wu and the state of Yue. King Fuchai of Wu was a proud and ambitious ruler who sought to expand his borders at any cost. King Gujian of Yue was equally determined to protect his people and maintain his kingdom's sovereignty. The air between the two nations was often thick with the tension of rivalry, like a storm cloud waiting to burst. Both kings watched each other across the border, waiting for any sign of weakness. The storm finally broke, and a great war erupted between the two rivals. King Fuchai's armies were vast and well-equipped, and through sheer force, they eventually overwhelmed the defenses of Yue. King Gujian was forced to surrender his crown and his kingdom to avoid the total destruction of his people. To save Yue from further suffering, Gujian agreed to a humiliating peace. He was taken to the palace of Wu not as a guest, but as a servant to the very man who had conquered him. For 3 long years, King Gujian served King Fuchai with quiet obedience. He cleaned the royal stables and even acted as a footstool for Fuchai to mount his horse. King Fuchai, seeing Gujian's humble behavior, began to believe that the king of Yue had truly been broken. He laughed at the former king, enjoying the sight of his rival performing menial tasks. Fuchai's arrogance grew daily, convinced that Yue would never rise again. Eventually, King Fuchai allowed Gujian to return to Yue, believing he was no longer a threat. But Gujian had never forgotten his defeat. Back in his own land, he lived a life of extreme hardship to keep his resolve sharp. Every night, he slept on a bed of rough brushwood. He hung a bitter animal gall bladder above his bed and tasted it every morning to remind himself of the bitterness of his humiliation. His loyal advisor, Wen Zhong, watched him closely, helping the king secretly rebuild the strength of their nation. While Gujian worked in the shadows, King Fuchai of Wu became distracted by his own success. He spent his kingdom's wealth on magnificent palaces and grand festivals. He believed that no one would ever dare to challenge him again. He sent his elite armies far to the north to fight other wars, seeking even more glory and leaving his own borders poorly defended. His servant, Jing, struggled to keep up with the king's constant demands for luxury and grand construction projects. Then, a terrible drought struck the state of Wu. The golden wheat turned to dust, and the granaries sat empty. The people were hungry, and the kingdom began to spiral into chaos. The house of Wu was figuratively on fire, consumed by famine and internal struggle, while the king's best soldiers were far away. Jing rushed to King Fuchai's chamber with a basket of shriveled, empty husks to show him the gravity of the situation. News of Wu's misfortune reached the ears of King Gujian. He called for his advisor, Wen Zhong, to discuss their next move. Gujian wanted to strike immediately to reclaim his honor, but he knew they had to be clever. Wen Zhong spread a map across the table, pointing to the weakened defenses of their rival and the absence of Fuchai's main army. "The time has come," Wen Zhong whispered. "Wu is vulnerable, and we must act before they recover." Wen Zhong lowered his voice, his eyes gleaming with tactical brilliance. "There is a classic stratagem for this, Your Majesty, Chèn Huǒ Dǎ Jié, to loot a burning house. It means that when an opponent is facing a great crisis, you must take advantage of that moment to strike. Wu is the burning house, consumed by hunger and internal chaos. We must use this opportunity to reclaim our home and secure our future while their defenses are down." King Gujian realized that his advisor was right. For years, he had waited and prepared his soldiers in secret, training them to be the best in the land. Now, while the state of Wu was distracted by famine and King Fuchai was caught off guard, the army of Yue was ready. Gujian mounted his horse, his heart full of resolve. He was no longer the defeated servant, but a leader ready to reclaim his destiny. The army of Yue swept across the border like a sudden tide. They met very little resistance, for the soldiers of Wu were hungry and demoralized. King Fuchai was caught completely by surprise in his palace. He looked out from his balcony to see Gujian's forces at his gates. The burning house of Wu was now falling, and Fuchai realized too late that his arrogance and neglect of his people had been his undoing. King Gujian was victorious, finally reclaiming his kingdom and restoring the state of Yue to its former glory. He thanked Wenzhong for his wisdom and the lesson of the burning house. The idiom reminds us even today that in history and in life, timing and preparation are everything. To loot a burning house is to recognize a moment of weakness in a struggle and use it to turn the tide.